Chapter 1841. Of course not. Xiaobai looked at Yun Yun calmly and said, "That's her temper. You don't have to pay attention to it." Yun Yun blinked innocently and asked, "What's her name? Is she Brother Xiaobai's friend? Why is she here? I saw her on the street today, but she seemed to be in a bad mood. Her name is Feng Yu, the younger sister of the hierarch of the Dark Yin sect. She is here to help." Xiaobai raised his eyebrows slightly and asked, "Have you met her before?" Yun Yun nodded and said, "I accidentally bumped into Sister Yu on the street. But Sister Yu was so fierce. She must have encountered something unpleasant." Although Yun Yun didn't describe it, Xiaobai could almost imagine Feng Yu's attitude. He frowned and said unhappily, "She is used to being lawless. Don't take it to heart." "Of course not." Yun Yun said delightedly, "Then wouldn't I have friends here too? I want to play with Sister Yu." Yun Yun looked very innocent. Xiaobai, who was at the side, frowned as he watched. With Feng Yu's temper, he was really afraid that Yun Yun would be bullied. Feng Yu didn't know that her reputation as the devil incarnate was so bad. Feng Yu was used to this kind of behavior in the Dark Yin sect. No one could discipline her, so she never cared about her reputation. But she never thought that she would have such a day. When Xiaochen came back and heard the news of Yun Tian's arrival, he didn't seem to have any other thoughts except for the initial surprise. He raised his eyebrows calmly. Ling Yong and Feng Ling also came back when it was dark. Fang Zicheng was the last to come back. They were in the same restaurant, but Fang Zicheng was not in a hurry to come back. He didn't come back until it was completely dark. "Come on, tell me what you have found." After dinner, everyone gathered together. Xiaochen said, "Feng Ling, you go first." Feng Ling nodded slightly and said, "We went to check the Taoist temple. Before we even got close, we knew that there were definitely people from the Miaojiang hiding in the Taoist temple, and there was more than one. There's a fragrance around this Taoist temple. That's the smell of goo worms about to mature. I'm guessing that someone is raising goo worms in this Taoist temple." Feng Ling's eyes were filled with seriousness as she said, "If that's the case, this matter will be troublesome." "What else did you discover?" Xiaochen asked calmly after listening to the report. "There are still some things that I'm not sure about. I don't know how strong the people of Miaojiang are. I really don't dare to rashly go in, so I still have people stay here to observe." Feng Ling slightly pursed her lips and replied, "All right." Xiaochen nodded and turned his gaze to Yun Tian. He said, "Young Master Yun, you said that you saw corpses being moved outside the arena. Did you see soldiers moving corpses or normal civilians?" "Civilians." Yun Tian pursed his lips and said, "I saw that there were people in these civilians' families who died. If it was only one person, then it would be fine. But within 2 hours I saw 5 or 6 families who all died in the same way. It's very strange. Because it was a funeral procession, I really couldn't go forward to check it out." Yun Tian replied faintly. Chapter 1842. I've already heard of this matter. Xiaochen nodded calmly after hearing Yun Tian's words. "I came to the palace today because of this matter. A few days ago, one person was poisoned. Later on, the number of poisoned people gradually increased. That's why it attracted attention." Xiaochen frowned slightly. He turned to Yun Tian and Feng Ling and said, "Let's go take a look at this matter tomorrow. There must be a problem with groups of poisoned people." Yun Tian and Feng Ling nodded slightly. They knew what Xiaochen meant. Their eyes were filled with questions as they asked doubtfully, "If the higher-ups find out about this matter, wouldn't it be inappropriate for us to go investigate rashly?" "It's fine." Xiaochen raised his hand and said, "You guys can pretend to be guards." Yun Tian and Feng Ling's faces instantly darkened. This was really easy for him to say. They were the young masters of the Poison sect and the sect leader of the Profound Yin sect. Now they had to pretend to be guards. "Zicheng, you came back so late. Did you discover anything?" Xiaochen didn't care about Yun Tian and Feng Ling's expressions. He calmly turned to Fang Zicheng and asked, "Yes, I made a huge discovery." Fang Zicheng slowly put down the things in his hands. He turned to Xiaochen and said seriously, Speaking of which, I have to thank Feng Yu for this discovery. If she hadn't appeared in the restaurant today, I really wouldn't have discovered anything. Feng Yu? Feng Ling suddenly heard Feng Yu's name and immediately frowned. She turned to look at Feng Yu and said, "You went out today? Didn't I tell you that it's not safe outside and that you're not allowed to go out?" "I only went out for a meal." Feng Yu immediately became nervous when Feng Ling glared at her. She lowered her head and said, "Who knew that I would run into this matter? Feng Yu already told me about this matter." Jing Yu pursed her lips and said, "Did you find anything?" Xiao Chen asked as he supported himself with his arm. "I know who the woman who poisoned Feng Maching is." Fang Zicheng pursed his lips and said, "At that time, Feng Yu went up to talk to her. That person left not long after. I sent a few people to secretly follow her. Finally, I found traces of her." "Who is it?" Jing Yu frowned deeply. She seemed to have thought of something, and her eyes were filled with a deep look. "It's Jing Yan." Fang Zicheng said slowly, "I've been following this woman in secret. I've noticed her for the past few days, but I haven't been able to confirm it. I only saw her after Feng Yu went up to talk to her and she left." She walked into the Prime Minister's manor from the back. When the Prime Minister fell from power, the Prime Minister's manor was sealed, but she still went in. I looked for a long time before I realized that the person hiding in the room was indeed Jing Yan. Fang Zicheng frowned deeply. Jing Yan? Jing Yu was truly shocked. When Jing Yan was chased to the nunnery, there was no news of her. Why did she suddenly appear now? Who brought Jing Yan back? What was Jing Yan's motive for coming back? Everything was still unknown. Chapter 1843. What Jing Yu couldn't understand the most was how did Jing Yan get involved with people from Miaojiang? What kind of inside story was this? This is no small matter. We don't know how Jing Yan came back or why she came back. Jing Yu pursed her lips slightly and said, "Get someone to keep an eye on Jing Yan. If there are any strange movements, report it. It's necessary to capture the people from Nanjiang who are hiding behind Jing Yan." Jing Yu turned to look at Xiao Chen and Fang Zicheng and said, "Jing Yu wouldn't believe it if someone else said it about Jing Yan. However, it was Fang Zicheng who said it. How could Fang Zicheng and Jing Yan not know each other in the imperial city? Therefore, even though Jing Yu knew about it now, she was still full of doubts. Then, everyone discussed what happened later and dispersed. Jing Yu heard that Feng Maching's injuries had healed, so she went to Feng Maching's room to take a look. Jing Yu looked at Feng Maching who was leaning on the side and reading a book. She raised her eyebrows slightly and asked calmly, "Are you feeling okay?" "Much better." Feng Maching raised his eyebrows slightly and put down the book in his hand. He looked at Jing Yu and said, "I heard you found the woman who poisoned me? Is she your sister?" Hee hee. Jing Yu smiled disdainfully and said, "Yes, but we still don't know what her goal is. However, since she came for me, she will make a move sooner or later. I want to see what this person wants to do." Jing Yu's expression was very calm. Feng Maching raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "It's boring to stay in this room all day. My injuries have healed. How about I go out for a walk?" Before Jing Yu could say anything, the door was suddenly pushed open. Helian Theo walked in with a bowl of soup in his hand. He looked at Feng Maching with displeasure and said, "Your injuries haven't healed yet. The imperial physician said you can't get out of bed." "My body is not that weak. This injury is no longer a big problem." Feng Maching also frowned unhappily. "I said no means no." Helian Theo refused to give up. Jing Yu, who was sitting at the side, suddenly had a very strange feeling. Why did it feel like the two of them were flirting with each other? Moreover, the way the two of them interacted with each other was too strange. What was going on? Jing Yu's gaze swept over the two of them. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something. Her eyes suddenly widened, and her very strange gaze wandered between the two of them. Probably because this gaze was too strange, Helian Xiao and Feng Maching immediately noticed it. "I'm leaving first. You guys continue." Jing Yu silently swallowed her saliva and said calmly. Then she stood up and walked out. Following Jing Yu's departure, the room sank into a rather strange atmosphere. Helian Xiu's entire body stiffened as he stood in the same spot. After pausing for a long time, he silently placed the item in his hand on the table. "I'm leaving." Helian Xiu's voice was as usual. However, even if Helian Xiu tried his best to hide it, one could still hear the determination in his voice. When Feng Maching heard Helian Xiu's voice, he was stunned and the expression on his face changed. "What did you say?" Finally, his face darkened and he looked at Helian Xiu and asked. "I said I'm leaving. I'm going back to the northern pastoral." Helian Xiu took a deep breath and said with a stiff face. Chapter 1844. Helian Xiu. Feng Maching's face suddenly turned cold. He looked deeply at Helian Xiu and said, "What do you mean by this?" "My meaning is very clear. Tomorrow, I will return to the northern pastoral." Helian Xiu straightened his body and said, "The grudge between us will end here. I forced you out of the imperial city and injured you. I can make up for the care I took during this period of time." After Helian Xiu's words fell, the atmosphere in the room instantly became incomparably strange. "What are you trying to say?" Feng Maching suddenly smiled and looked at Helian Xiu. He said, "Are you trying to say that you took care of me because you felt guilty?" "Helian Xiu, I only know now that you are such a coward." After hearing Feng Maching's words, the cold expression on Helian Xiu's face cracked for a moment. However, he was not affected at all. "Tell me." Feng Maching propped himself up and sat up. His eyes were fixed on Helian Xiu as he said, "Look at me and tell me in detail. Do you really feel guilty when you've been with me during this period of time? Don't tell me you didn't." Feng Maching looked at Helian Xiu with a face full of anger. "Enough." Helian Xiu suddenly interrupted Feng Maching's words. He took a deep breath and said, "I have said everything that needs to be said. I hope that Tower Master Feng will take care of yourself in the future." After Helian Xiu finished speaking, he suddenly left. It looked like he was running away. Although Jingyu left, she did not go far. She looked at the house in the distance with interest. She had all sorts of fantasies in her mind, and she had a very strange smile on her face. Yin Xiao, who was at the side, saw her wife revealing such a smile, and immediately felt a chill down her spine. Jingyu, who was at the side, did not feel anything at all, and continued to watch silently. Not long after, Helian Xiu walked out with a cold face and lowered head. Jingyu was stunned. Seeing Helian Xiu like this, could it be that something unpleasant happened? Could it be that Feng Maching used force again? Jingyu thought of what Feng Maching did when he was drunk last time, and her eyes immediately widened. She imagined an even more explosive scene, and then she shook her head repeatedly. With Feng Maching's current injured appearance, he would definitely lose even if he used force. From the looks of it, they quarreled. Jingyu thought for a moment, then walked around and appeared in front of Helian Xiu. Helian Xiu was walking with his head lowered. When he saw Jingyu, he was stunned and stopped in his tracks. "What's wrong? Why does your face look so bad?" Jingyu asked calmly as if she was just passing by. She clearly came out of the house just a moment ago and now she appeared here again. It was obvious that she was here to block people. "Nothing." Helian Xiu was a little emotional. He pursed his lips and replied, "I was just about to look for you and Xiao Qin. I have something to tell you." "What is it?" Jingyu narrowed her eyes and asked. "I have been in Tokyo for a long time. I am preparing to return to China tomorrow, so I came to say hello." Helian Xiu nodded calmly at Jingyu and said, "Return to China? Tomorrow?" Jingyu was stunned. She looked at Helian Xiu and said, "You are going back to Northern Pastoral?" "Yes." Helian Xiu nodded slowly. Jingyu was stunned. Chapter 1845. Helian Xiu, did you quarrel with Feng Maching? Jingyu looked at Helian Xiu strangely and asked, "Why did you leave so suddenly?" Although Feng Maching's mouth is a little poisonous, he is still a very good person. "What are you talking about?" Helian Xiu lowered his head in panic and said, "I will leave tomorrow. I just wanted to inform you. There are still some things that I have to settle, so I will leave first." Without waiting for Jing Yu's response, he turned and left. Jing Yu was left standing on the spot in shock. What just happened? Madam, what did you mean by that? Yin Xiao stood beside Jing Yu and said, why did this servant feel that it was strange? Does Madam think that brothel master Feng and Emperor Helion are not on good terms? Isn't it obvious? It's obvious that these two men. Jing Yu opened her mouth to speak, but when she said this, she suddenly stopped. What happened to the two of them? When Yin Xiao heard Jing Yu's words, she was momentarily stunned and asked curiously. Nothing. Jing Yu slowly shook her head and glanced at Yin Xiao. Only then did she vaguely remember that this was the ancient era and not the modern era. Jing Yu frowned deeply. The appearance of Helion Theo and Feng Maching could not be clearer. In the eyes of others, perhaps the two of them had a good relationship, but Jing Yu could see clearly that in the eyes of Helion Theo and Feng Maching, what they showed was something else. If this was the modern era, this kind of thing would not be so easily discussed, let alone in the ancient era. Jing Yu frowned deeply and looked in the direction that Helion Theo left in from afar. Then, she looked at Feng Maching's room and fell silent for a moment. She turned and returned to her own courtyard. She propped her head up and sat there in a daze. When Xiaochen returned from the study room, he saw Jing Yu sitting there in a daze and raised his eyebrows in confusion. What are you thinking about? Why are you so lost in thought? When she heard Xiaochen's words, Jing Yu turned around and saw Xiaochen. She smiled faintly and said, "You're back?" Xiaochen responded and walked over to Jing Yu's side. He then asked, "What's wrong? Do you know that Helion Theo is leaving tomorrow?" Jing Yu paused and looked at Xiaochen. When Xiaochen heard Jing Yu's words, his face instantly turned cold. He squinted at Jing Yu and asked, "You were in a daze because of this?" "Yes." Jing Yu nodded. However, when she turned around and saw Xiaochen's dark face, she found it funny. She raised her eyebrows and said, "What are you thinking about? I was just wondering if Helion Theo's sudden departure was because of Feng Maching." Feng Maching? When Xiaochen heard Jing Yu's words, he frowned slightly. What did this have to do with Feng Maching? Jing Yu nodded hesitantly. Suddenly, she looked at Xiaochen strangely and asked, "Xiaochen, let me ask you something." "Go ahead." Xiaochen nodded calmly. "What do you think about two men falling in love?" Jing Yu stared at Xiaochen and asked. She was afraid that she would miss the expression on Xiaochen's face. When Jing Yu finished speaking, Xiaochen frowned as if he was thinking hard. Chapter 1846. Are you talking about Helion Theo and Feng Maching? Xiaochen was silent for a moment, then looked at Jing Yu and asked. Jing Yu heard Xiaochen's words and suddenly widened her eyes in surprise. You know? Jing Yu pursed her lips and looked at Xiaochen. Xiaochen said very quietly, "It's not that this kind of thing hasn't happened between men in the upper echelons of society. It's just that it's very secretive and no one dares to say it openly. Some men even have a fetish for boys and the like." Xiaochen said slowly, "If you ask me what my attitude is, it's probably that I keep a respectful distance from it, because this kind of thing has never happened to me. Now that you mention it, I have to pay more attention." Xiaochen raised his eyebrows slightly and replied. "But..." Xiaochen changed the topic and looked at Jing Yu calmly and asked, "How did you find out?" "You forgot that I'm someone from the future." Jing Yu moved to Xiaochen's side and said, "In our world, although same-sex love is very rare, most people still approve of it. In some countries, same-sex marriage is even allowed. Looking at Helion Theo and Feng Maching, I'm afraid they've suppressed it just like that." Jing Yu raised her eyebrows slightly and looked at Xiaochen asking, "So I came to ask you, an ancient person, what's your attitude?" Xiaochen frowned and fell silent for a moment. He turned to Jing Yu and said, "If I were to ask you, I would probably reject it." Jing Yu was slightly surprised and looked at Xiaochen as she asked. She originally thought that Xiaochen said so much because he had other thoughts, but Xiaochen's rejection surprised Jing Yu. "If you don't follow the rules, you'll be criticized for life." Xiaochen narrowed his eyes slightly and said coldly, "One is the head of Sunluo Tower, the other is the emperor of the Northern Pastoral. What do you think these two people will have to bear if they hold such a thing?" When Xiao Chen finished speaking, Jing Yu's eyes were suddenly filled with shock, and her emotions slowly calmed down. If it's not publicized, Xiao Chen said again, the two of them will have to be secretive and careful for the rest of their lives. Do you know what the consequences will be if they really do this? Xiao Chen's words made Jing Yu slowly fall silent. In the end, this night's conversation was fruitless. The gender and status of the two people, as well as the eyes of the world, were like a huge chasm in front of the two of them. The next morning, Heli and Theo set off. Jing Yu stood in front of the prince's residence and watched as Heli and Theo left in his carriage. Her golden-green eyes flickered with all sorts of emotions, but it also seemed like there was no emotion in them. Perhaps she felt sorry for the two of them, or perhaps she meant something else, but Jing Yu nestled in her soft bed and sighed deeply. Madam, Feng Maching has disappeared. Just as Jing Yu closed her eyes in silence, she suddenly heard 15th Xing's words. When she opened her eyes, she saw 15th Xing rush in. Before Jing Yu could open her mouth to ask, he continued, he went after Heli and Theo. Jing Yu's heart skipped a beat, and the hands by her side unconsciously tightened. Chapter 1847. There's no need to stop him, Jing Yu said slowly. He'll be back soon. 15th interrogation officer was slightly taken aback. Yushi looked at Jing Yu strangely and asked, since when did Feng Maching have such a good relationship with Heli and Theo? I asked him to send him off, but he didn't. He even chased after him after he left. If I didn't know better, I would have thought that his wife ran away, 15th interrogation officer said mockingly. As he said that, he suddenly felt Jing Yu's gaze on him. His body trembled violently, and he silently shut his mouth and carefully retreated. Jing Yu watched 15th interrogation officer leave before she slowly closed her eyes. On the other side, Feng Maching's face was slightly pale. He chased out of the city and stopped Heli and Theo's carriage at the side of the mountain road. Who's there? When the guards saw this scene, their eyes were filled with shock and they shouted angrily. Heli and Theo. Feng Maching did not care and rushed towards Heli and Xiao. The expression in his eyes was so scorching. That pair of eyes stared at the carriage as if he wanted to stare a hole in it. Heli and Theo suddenly lifted the curtain of the carriage. When he saw Feng Maching appear in front of him, his eyes were filled with shock. He looked at Feng Maching with tightly pursed lips and waved his hand to let him go. The carriage drove into the forest on the side. The guards stood guard outside while Feng Maching and Heli and Theo stood inside. Heli and Theo then turned to Feng Maching and said, do you want to die? Look at yourself. Feng Maching looked at Heli and Theo silently. Don't run around when your injuries haven't healed. If you really die outside, no one will collect your corpse, Heli and Theo said coldly with a slightly stiff expression. Heli and Theo, don't go. Feng Maching slowly took a step forward. He was so close to Heli and Theo. When Heli and Theo heard Feng Maching's words, his body instantly trembled violently. If you're here for this, then you can leave, Heli and Theo slowly turned around and said coldly. Heli and Theo, I don't believe that you don't feel anything. Feng Maching looked at Heli and Theo with a faint trace of anger in his eyes. Heli and Theo was completely unmoved. Feng Maching suddenly reached out and pulled Heli and Theo's arm. He directly pulled Heli and Theo into his arms and fiercely blocked Heli and Theo's lips with a scorching kiss. That unfamiliar breath instantly engulfed Heli and Theo's senses. Heli and Theo raised his hand to struggle, but he didn't know if Feng Maching had gone crazy. He completely ignored his own injuries and how Heli and Theo struggled. He crazily blocked Heli and Theo's lips and fiercely kissed him with all his strength. This feeling was like a desperate urge to stay. Heli and Xiao finally relaxed his body slowly. The corners of his lips were stained with the color of blood, and the faint taste of blood filled his mouth. Heli and Theo, you love me. Feng Maching's pitch-black eyes were as dazzling as the stars. He didn't loosen his grip on Heli and Theo's hand in the slightest. Are you satisfied? Heli and Theo fiercely broke free from Feng Maching's hand. His eyes were filled with disgust as he looked at Feng Maching as if he was looking at a stranger. He reached out his hand and fiercely wiped his lips as if he was trying to erase something. Chapter 1848. I'll just take it that I was bitten by a dog. Hellion Theo looked at Feng Maching with an extremely cold gaze and said, "If you come any closer to me, I'll kill you." Those eyes filled with disgust and those cold and heartless words stunned Feng Maching. His eyes cracked bit by bit. Jing Yu's body trembled violently as she watched Hellion Theo fling his sleeves and leave. Her body, which was holding onto the tree trunk and retching, was like a sharp knife that ruthlessly stabbed into Feng Maching's body. Feng Maching stood in the same spot. There was no one around him anymore. Hellion Theo's carriage was moving away. Feng Maching stood in the same spot for a long time as if his entire body was so stiff that he couldn't move. Finally, he slowly took a step forward and reached out to hold onto the tree trunk beside him. The wounds on his body that had almost healed split open again under such torment. Fresh blood seeped through his clothes, but Feng Maching didn't seem to feel any pain at all. He reached out to hold onto the tree trunk as his body trembled uncontrollably. Hee. A chuckle escaped from Feng Maching's mouth. Feng Maching's shoulders trembled as if he couldn't control himself from laughing. All he could think of in his mind was the disgust in Hellion Theo's eyes, the way Hellion Theo wiped his lips, and the sound of Hellion Theo's retching. Ha! Feng Maching suddenly laughed. He laughed so hard that tears fell from his eyes. He seemed to have laughed for a long time and laughed until he didn't know what to say. Finally, as if he was tired, he slowly straightened his body and silently walked forward step by step. On the road far away, Hellion Theo sat upright in his carriage. His stiff body was so obvious. His pair of eyes that had lost all emotions and vitality just stared quietly at the wall in front of him. Feng Maching is back. Jingyu was looking at the flowers under the setting sun when she heard Xing 15's words. Her hand that was caressing suddenly froze. Then, Jingyu slightly withdrew her hand and said, "I know." "Madam, aren't you curious about what happened?" Xing 15 asked curiously. This Feng Maching chased after Hellion Theo. Could it be that he went to fight? When he came back, all the wounds on his body opened up again. And after he came back, he locked himself in the room and ignored everyone. This is really too strange. Xing 15 said with a conflicted tone. "Ignore it." Jingyu looked at the sunlight that disappeared into the horizon and said calmly, "Just send the medicine in after you've ordered it." Xing 15 saw that Jingyu was completely uninterested and didn't ask any more questions. He Maching and Feng immediately. In the end, no one knew about the matter between Feng Maching and Hellion Xiu. Jingyu also didn't mention a word. The days continued, but Feng Maching seemed to have changed into a different person. He didn't say anything and just silently lay on the bed to recuperate. Everyone was very surprised by Feng Maching's change, but no one knew what had happened. In the blink of an eye, it was the Double Ninth Festival. The imperial city of Tokyo was very lively. Jingyu and the others had been investigating the Miaojiang people, but they didn't make much progress. Jingyu also didn't make any moves. This made Jingyu a little worried, but there was nothing she could do except wait. The Double Ninth Festival came at the right time. Chapter 1849. What did you just say? Double Yang Flower Festival? Jingyu turned to look at Yin Xiao and asked. Yes, doesn't Madam know about it? Yin Xiao looked at Jingyu and said, I heard that it was organized by the Empress. They are holding a flower festival in the palace. When the 9th Emperor's return, they will definitely tell Madam about it. The Empress is new. Jingyu smiled faintly and said, she's about to give birth, but she's still so casual. I heard that they are going to pray for the child during the festival. The Emperor agreed. Yin Xiao said happily. That's good. I haven't entered the palace in a long time. I can take this opportunity to enter the palace. Jingyu raised her eyebrows slightly. There was a faint smile in her eyes as she replied calmly. After Xiaochen returned, he told Jingyu about this matter. But at the same time, he brought a piece of news that made Jingyu feel a little uneasy. Feng Ling and Yun Tian had been keeping an eye on the Taoist temple during this time. You're saying that there's no one in the Taoist temple? Did you go in? Jingyu frowned and asked with a frown. Xiao Chen sat at the side and frowned. He said in a deep voice, Feng Ling and Yun Tian entered the Taoist temple. There was indeed someone living there, but I don't see anyone. I don't know when they left. Su Yu's people should be watching. Why did they disappear? Jing Yu frowned and looked at Xiao Chen with narrowed eyes. She asked, Did you see anything else in the room? For example, checking the secret passageway. I checked, but I didn't find anything. Xiao Chen narrowed his eyes and looked at Jing Yu. He said in a deep voice, Now that the clues are broken again, we have to start again. Jing Yu was silent for a moment before she said, We can't rush it. Let's just wait. How is Jing Yan? Jing Yu turned to look at Xiao Chen and asked again. It's still the same. In the Prime Minister's mansion and the restaurant, there's a pattern, as if they're waiting for someone, Xiao Chen said with a deep frown. I secretly checked the situation in the Prime Minister's mansion, but there's nothing. This is strange. Jing Yu frowned deeply. She felt as if she had thought of something, but also as if she had forgotten something. She raised her hands slightly to rub her head. I will worry about these things. You don't have to think too much about it. Xiao Chen reached out and held Jing Yu's hand. He stood up and gently massaged Jing Yu's brows. Then he said gently, Have a good rest. It will be Chongyang in 2 days. Okay, Jing Yu replied and raised her eyebrows slightly. The Chongyang festival was very lively in the imperial city. Jing Yu still remembered that when she begged Xiao Chen to go out with her to see the chrysanthemums, she was brought to a hill by Xiao Chen to see the wild chrysanthemums. In the blink of an eye, so many years had passed. This was the flower banquet in the palace. In terms of attire, one naturally had to dress in a dignified manner. However, now that Jing Yu was pregnant, it was inconvenient for her to dress. She only felt more comfortable after changing a few times. She nodded calmly. When Jing Yu finished dressing, Xiao Chen was in the outer room. He had drunk a lot of tea and was reading a book calmly. When Jing Yu came out, she saw this scene and raised her eyebrows in surprise. Chapter 1850. This man was probably the only one who could calmly wait for her to dress up, right? Jing Yu's eyes were tinged with a touch of gentleness as she walked toward Xiao Chen. When Xiao Chen saw Jing Yu, he put down the book in his hand and stood up. He looked at Jing Yu and said, Now I know why you hated entering the palace so much. Hee. Jing Yu immediately covered her mouth and laughed. She reached out and held Xiao Chen's arm intimately and said, I dress up like this because I don't want to embarrass you. But is it not good? Very good. Xiao Chen faintly curved his eyebrows. There was a faint smile in his eyes. He was so calm. Jing Yu smiled and turned to walk outside. Since they were in the prince's mansion, the carriage was already waiting outside. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen sat in the carriage and headed towards the palace. Speaking of which, ever since the appearance of the Miaojiang people, Jing Yu had been hiding in the prince's mansion. If there was no flower festival, she would not go out. Sitting in the carriage, she heard the noise outside and was a little absent-minded. It seemed that the flower festival was also very lively. Jing Yu slightly curved her eyebrows, but there was no change in her expression. The palace was very majestic. However, Xiao Chen and Jing Yu met the young couple, Shengguan Linglan and Xing Er, outside. Jing Yu. Shengguan Linglan saw Jing Yu and immediately came over happily. General's wife, we haven't seen each other for a long time. Jing Yu winked at Shengguan Linglan. Shengguan Linglan's face turned red when she heard Jing Yu address her as General's wife. The male guests are in the front hall. Let's go to the back hall first? Shengguan Linglan said as his gaze fell on Xiao Chen and Xing Er. Obviously, he wanted to chase them away. Xiao Chen looked at Jing Yu and then at Jing Yu and said, Be careful. Ninth Emperors, don't worry. With me here, no one dares to touch you. Shengguan Linglan replied firmly. Jing Yu was speechless. Xiao Chen faintly raised his eyebrows, turned around, and left with Xing Er. Xing Er and Xiao Chen hadn't spoken for a long time. At this moment, they were heading to the front hall. Jing Yu and Shengguan Linglan went to the back hall, where the madams were gathered. When Jing Yu and Shengguan Linglan arrived, the courtyard was very lively. When they saw Jing Yu and Shanghai Linglan, They all came forward to greet them. Jing Yu and Shanghai Linglan naturally responded to them. Shanghai Linglan hated this kind of situation the most. If it was before they got married, Shangguan Linglan would have definitely turned around and left without a second thought. He didn't care about what would happen. However, it was different now. He actually stayed here to accompany them. Although he was impatient, this was many times better than leaving directly. Looking at this situation, he nodded with satisfaction. When Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglan were talking, they finally heard a voice from the other side. The Empress's sedan chair slowly came over. Everyone bowed down and kowtowed. Only Jing Yu only bent her knees slightly and lowered her head. This Jing Yu was pregnant and had long been exempted from the ceremony of kowtowing. Quickly get up. Lu Miaoqiu's clothes were considered simple. She was already 8 months pregnant. Everyone around her was waiting on her nervously. She didn't even wear a single piece of jewelry. However, Lu Miaoqiu was like this. Chapter 1851. At first glance, it was still exceptionally amazing. No matter what, they did not dare to underestimate it. The Empress's posture and the majesty of a superior made Jing Yu frown slightly. She watched as Lu Miaoqiu walked towards the high position without looking sideways. Finally, she slowly sat down on the highest position. Her beautiful eyes swept across the people below. Rise. Although her tone was very calm, there was a faint sense of pressure. Everyone slowly sat down after hearing Lu Miaoqiu's words. Jing Yu's gaze fell on the several imperial concubines on the side. Looking at the clothes of these imperial concubines, she could tell that their grades were not low. However, in front of Lu Miaoqiu, they spoke cautiously and did not dare to be rash. The group of madams saw how Lu Miaoqiu disciplined the concubines in the imperial harem so well. Suddenly, they looked at Lu Miaoqiu with even more reverence. The Empress now was incredible. Not only was she deeply doted on by the Emperor, she almost monopolized the imperial harem. The Emperor had been on the throne for so long, but they had never heard of the Emperor staying overnight in another concubine's palace. The Empress also had a big belly. She was pregnant with a dragon seed, the first son of the Emperor. With this, no one dared to act rashly. However, the ministers in the court were quite critical. They said that the harem needed to be evenly distributed. Lu Miaoqiu was extremely favored. How could she be the role model of the imperial harem? When one person dared to speak, everyone came out to agree. However, Xiao Yuling was strong. She ignored these words and continued to favor Lu Miaoqiu. Now, the court was full of words. However, at this time, Lu Miaoqiu still wantonly held a flower banquet and invited the madams into the imperial harem. No one knew whether this action was intentional or not, but everyone could feel a strong sense of arrogance. Lu Miaoqiu also put on airs. Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglan sat below. Occasionally, they would chat and laugh with Lu Miaoqiu. Occasionally, they would watch her deal with the various madams. They really admired Lu Miaoqiu's brain. Tisk tisk tisk. Shangguan Linglan was eating while listening to Lu Miaoqiu quietly scolding the madams until their faces turned ashen and their ears red. However, they did not dare to say a word of anger. He was speechless. Only Miaoqiu has this kind of ability. If it were me, I would have to fight with them after a few words. Shangguan Linglan sighed and said, "Listen to these words. They are simply stabbing at the heart. However, there is nothing to refute. It's not the first time you've seen it. Why are you so surprised?" Jing Yu smiled slightly and said, "If Miaoqiu did not have this kind of ability, how could she sit on the imperial harem's throne?" "That's true." Shangguan Linglan sighed and said, "If I think of the weak and incompetent young lady of the Lu family and compare her with this Miaoqiu, I can't believe that they are the same person." Jing Yu nodded cooperatively. When they were in the academy, Lu Miaoqiu had a cowardly and timid appearance. However, Jing Yu could see that this so-called cowardly and timid appearance was just a disguise that she did not want to expose herself in front of others. Thinking about it, if she did not meet Jing Yu and Shangguan Linglan, Lu Miaoqiu's appearance would definitely last for a long time. However, Jing Yu did not doubt that once Lu Miaoqiu was exposed, what kind of appearance would she have? Thinking of this, Jing-yu suddenly smiled. Chapter 1852. On the other side, Lu Miaoqiu was arguing with everyone else. When Xiao Yuling, Xiao Chen, and the other male guests arrived, they all stopped arguing. Jing-yu and the others all stood up and bowed. This place was already lively. With the arrival of the male guests, it became even livelier. Since it was a flower festival, flowers were naturally indispensable. Jing-yu, Xiao Chen, and the others drank some tea. Then, they went to the Imperial Garden to admire the flowers. Since it was the Double Ninth Festival, the most representative flower was the chrysanthemum. Xiao Yuling was really capable. They didn't know where she got so many chrysanthemums. Each variety had its own merits. Jing-yu naturally didn't know what kind of chrysanthemum these were. She just looked at it. The group of madams were also playing in the garden. Jing-yu had the opportunity to come to Lu Miaoqiu's side. Seeing Lu Miaoqiu's pregnant appearance, she was really worried. You really can't stay idle. It's almost time to give birth. Why are you still holding a flower festival? Jing-yu, Shangguan Linglan, and Lu Miaoqiu walked together. The surrounding people all looked at them with envy. No matter who Jing-yu and the other two were, they couldn't be underestimated. I'm really bored in the Imperial Palace alone. Lu Miaoqiu looked at Jing-yu and said helplessly, "Why didn't you and Linglan come to the palace to see me? I heard that people from Miaojiang sneaked into the Imperial Palace." You heard about it too? Jing-yu looked at Lu Miaoqiu and frowned slightly. This matter is a little tricky. Xiao Qin is preparing. I don't know what progress he has made. You have to be careful. Lu Miaoqiu turned to look at Jing-yu and said, I think these people are here for you. Now that you're pregnant, it's too dangerous. Why don't you stay in the palace with me? It's fine. Jing-yu laughed and shook her head. She looked at Lu Miaoqiu and said, although the Imperial Palace is safe, if the people from Miaojiang really come to the palace, it's not good for you. It's better for me to stay in the prince's residence. Lu Miaoqiu shook her head helplessly and stopped talking. I've also heard about the Miaojiang from Second Xing. Shangguan Linglan also frowned. He looked at Jing-yu and asked, I heard that Jing Yan is involved in this matter. What's going on? It's hard to say. Jing-yu shook her head slowly. Jing Yan? Wasn't she locked in the nunnery? Why did you come out? Lu Miaoqiu frowned. I don't know how to explain this matter. Jing-yu shook her head and stopped walking. She looked at Lu Miaoqiu and said, the one who exiled Jing Yan to the nunnery was the late emperor. When the new emperor ascended the throne, he pardoned the world. We have no reason to capture Jing Yan again. Right now, Jing Yan seems to be involved with the people from Miaojiang. I wanted to use Jing Yan to find her, but it's been almost half a month and there's still no progress. Jing-yu frowned and said, I don't know why, but I feel even more uneasy. It's fine. If Jing Yan really wants to make a move, she will definitely reveal her foxtail. When Lu Miaoqiu heard Jing Yan's name, a sense of vigilance arose in her heart as she deeply furrowed her brows. Jing-yu nodded and continued to walk forward. She looked at the courtyard full of chrysanthemums and said, Xiao Yuling really cares about you. She's willing to find so many chrysanthemums for you. Now you know how good Xiao Yuling is? Chapter 1853. Don't tease me. Lu Miaoqiu lowered her head shyly when she heard Jing-yu's words. Right now, you don't have to worry about anything. The most important thing is to give birth to the child safely. Do you understand? Jing-yu looked at Lu Miaoqiu and said, this is the Tokyo's first imperial heir. How can we be careless? That's right, Shangguan Linglan agreed. Linglan, when do you plan to have a child with Xing heir? Who knows, it might be a young general. Lu Miaoqiu turned to Shangguan Linglan and said, we've only been married for a short time. Shangguan Linglan blushed when she heard Lu Miaoqiu's words. Giving birth to a child is an important matter. Naturally, we have to plan for it early. Lu Miaoqiu said with a serious expression. The three girls were chattering away, and from time to time, there would be sounds of cheerful laughter. The crowd in the distance revealed envious expressions when they saw this scene. However, they didn't do anything. The three women of the Tokyo were the envy of everyone in the world. In this Tokyo, many people wanted to get close to them, but they were afraid. The empress only smiled so happily after seeing the 9th imperial concubine and the general's wife. Xiao Yuling said to Xiao Chen and Xing Er as she retracted her gaze. If it wasn't for the fact that things have been a little chaotic these days, I would have let you enter the palace. However, with the current situation, I beg for your majesty's forgiveness. Xiao Chen's tone was very calm. He pursed his lips slightly and spoke without any change in expression. It's fine. Xiao Yuling naturally understood the meaning behind Xiao Chen's words. She frowned slightly and looked at Xiao Chen as she asked, "Is there any progress on this matter?" Xiao Chen replied with a deep frown. While a group of people was enjoying the view in the garden and looking at the gorgeous chrysanthemums, a group of people was also preparing a banquet. Since it was the double 9th festival, chrysanthemum pastries and some snacks were indispensable. A group of palace maids were serving bowls and chopsticks, as well as pastries and wine. "What are you doing?" Just as the group of palace maids were preparing, one of the palace maids frowned and asked when she saw the actions of another palace maid. "Big Sister Cui, just now, the 9th imperial concubine's maidservant instructed us to wipe the 9th imperial concubine's bowl and chopsticks properly. The 9th imperial concubine is very sensitive to the smell today." The palace maid blinked her eyes and said very innocently, "The 9th imperial concubine is already 5 months pregnant, right? Don't tell me you'll vomit?" Another palace maid asked curiously. "Who knows? Since mistress has instructed, I will do it." The palace maid slowly put down the bowl and chopsticks. When the group of palace maids saw the emperor and empress slowly walking over from the distance, they immediately stood up and knelt on both sides, bowing to welcome them. No one saw that the palace maid had secretly stuffed the cloth that she had just used to wipe the bowl and chopsticks into her sleeve without a trace. Xiao Yuling very considerately helped Lu Miaoqiu to sit on the high seat. She seemed to be in a very good mood as she chatted and laughed with everyone. After a few words, they raised their cups and drank together. Then, when the pastries were served, she invited everyone to taste the delicious pastries. "It's a bit sweet." Lu Miaoqiu gently took a bite and a faint fragrance wafted over. Chapter 1854. Lu Miaoqiu nodded slightly. Xiao Yuling also took a bite and frowned slightly. "You can't eat such sweet things. Drink some water." As Xiao Yuling spoke, she reached out and took the pastry from Lu Miaoqiu's hands. Everyone below was looking at the two of them. Who would have thought that after Xiao Yuling took the pastry, she would eat it herself? "You're so stingy. If you want to eat, then eat it yourself. Why are you snatching mine?" Lu Miaoqiu looked at Xiao Yuling's actions and frowned unhappily. She glared at Xiao Yuling and said. Xiao Yuling's action of eating pastry paused slightly. Just as she was about to speak, she noticed the gazes of everyone below. She raised her hand and coughed slightly. Everyone's eyes were filled with smiles. The madam at the side took the opportunity to congratulate. "The emperor and empress are truly a match made in heaven. Such love is my Tokyo's blessing." During this period of time, she had heard too many words of blame. Now that she heard these words of praise, she was naturally very happy. Well said. Xiao Yuling's brows were filled with smiles. A few words of praise are enough to make you so happy. Lu Miaoqiu's heart was also filled with faint joy. However, when she saw Xiao Yuling like this, she couldn't help but speak up. "Zhen can't even be happy?" Xiao Yuling moved slightly closer to Lu Miaoqiu. Her pitch-black eyes only had Lu Miaoqiu in them. When the imperial concubines saw the flirting between the two of them, their faces turned ashen. "Everyone, there's no need to be restrained. Today, treat it as a family banquet." Xiao Yuling raised her cup slightly. Everyone below agreed. Xiao Yuling's eyes flashed with a faint smile. When she turned to speak to everyone, she didn't forget to ask Lu Miaoqiu if she was feeling unwell. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen were sitting below. When they saw this scene, there was a faint smile in their eyes. Seeing Xiao Yuling and Lu Miaoqiu like this, Jing Yu immediately felt a sense of relief. There was a slight smile in her eyes. She raised her hand to eat the pastry and drank water. When she heard the music, there were naturally people reciting poems or playing the zither to attract attention. This banquet was very lively. Lu Miaoqiu said that she was tired after a while, and greeted Jingyu and Shangguan Linglan before returning to her palace. Xiao Yuling naturally didn't ask her to stay. After she asked someone to send Lu back. And the banquet. Why doesn't this pastry taste very sweet? Jingyu ate a few pieces of pastry but didn't taste anything. She instantly frowned in curiosity. The people in the imperial kitchen were also lazy? Jingyu helplessly shook her head and didn't think too much about it. She raised her cup and drank water. When the banquet was about to end, Xiao Yuling called Xiao Chen to the study. Jingyu wasn't in a hurry to leave the palace. Instead, she went to the Empress Palace. She heard that Lu Miaoqiu was resting and didn't disturb her. Xiao Chen didn't come out. Jingyu had the carriage send her back first. She didn't know if it was because she was tired today. The carriage rocked back and forth and she felt like she was going to fall asleep. Jingyu covered her mouth and yawned. The sky outside was already dark. Jingyu originally wanted the cold wind to blow in and blow away her sleepiness. Chapter 1855. But the moment Jingyu opened the window, she instantly felt a sharp light shooting towards her. Jingyu's eyes widened as she saw the sharp arrow fly past her eyes and nail itself into the wall of the carriage. Assassins! Protect the madam! The noise outside increased in an instant. Jingyu's heart tightened at this moment, and the tiredness in her mind was instantly awakened. She shook her body violently. What's going on? At this moment, Jingyu instinctively shielded her child. Hearing the sounds of swords and sabers outside, she didn't dare to move an inch. She took a few deep breaths before reaching for the dagger under the table. With a cold face, she lifted the curtains of the carriage. Out of nowhere, so many men in black had appeared and were fighting with Xing Shiwu's guards. Jingyu's eyes were cold. She frowned deeply at the situation before her. As her golden-green eyes watched the chaotic battle, her sharp eyes suddenly caught sight of a figure standing in the shadows not far away. That woman in black with a cloak was standing quietly not far away. As if she had sensed Jingyu's gaze, her body moved slightly and she slowly raised her head. A pair of pitch-black eyes flashed with an incomparably cold light. The coldness in those eyes was so frightening. The moment Jingyu saw the woman's face, her body froze on the spot. Protect the madam! The sound of horse hooves could be heard from afar. Jingyu turned her head and saw Xiao Chen leading a large group of men closing in. Jingyu instantly knew that everything was fine now. When she turned her head to look in the direction she had come from, everything was gone. The place where there had been people just a moment ago was now empty. Everything seemed to be an illusion in Jingyu's mind. Xiao Chen's call rang out. Jingyu turned her head and saw that these men in black had probably sensed that something was wrong and wanted to run. But how could Xiao Chen give them this chance? After capturing all of them, Jingyu slowly got off the carriage. Xiao Chen quickly rushed over, his eyes filled with panic and anxiety. Are you all right? Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu, then at Jingyu from top to bottom. Seeing that there weren't any wounds on Jingyu's body, he slowly let out a sigh of relief. Xiao Chen, I saw it. Jingyu's face was slightly pale. She stared at Xiao Chen and asked seriously, what did you see? I saw Madame Nye. There was still some panic in Jingyu's eyes. That figure just now, those eyes were so clear. Jingyu's grip on Xiao Chen's hand tightened. She pursed her lips and said, I really saw it. Xiao Chen's heart trembled when he heard Jingyu's words. He turned to look around and took a deep breath. Let's talk when we get back. Xiao Chen didn't say anything. He half-hugged Jingyu and escorted Jingyu into the carriage. He pulled out the arrow stuck in the carriage's wall with an icy expression without any warmth. Jingyu didn't know what Xiao Chen was thinking, but her heart was filled with unease. Everyone in the prince's estate knew that Jingyu had been attacked on her way back to the prince's estate, so they all came over and waited for the imperial physician to take her pulse. Chapter 1856. Xiao Chen glanced at Jingyu, who was lying on the bed, and turned to ask the imperial physician, "How is she?" Replying to the 9th emperors, "The 9th imperial concubine is only in shock. I will give her some medicine to prevent miscarriage." The imperial physician bowed slightly to Xiao Chen as he spoke. When Xiao Chen heard the imperial physician's words, he felt a lot more at ease. After the imperial physician left the prescription, he bade farewell and carried his medicine box out of the prince's mansion. Shangguan Linglan just happened to rush over. The imperial physician bowed slightly to Shangguan Linglan as he walked away. Shangguan Linglan asked the imperial physician and found out that Jingyu was fine. Only then did he feel a bit more at ease. However, when he saw the imperial physician's puzzled expression, he faintly muttered, "This is strange. Why can't I tell the severity of her pulse?" His words were very soft, as if he was muttering to himself. Shangguan Linglan looked at the imperial physician who was walking away and frowned slightly. He didn't think too much about it and turned around to head to Jingyu's room. When he saw that Jingyu was really unharmed, he let out a sigh of relief. "What happened to you? Why did you encounter an assassination attempt the moment you left the palace?" Xiao Chen brought everyone to the study. Feng Zhu and Shangguan Linglan stayed behind. "I don't know either." Jingyu frowned slightly and her limp body leaned back slightly. The sound of an announcement came from outside and Feng Yu walked in with large strides. "9th Imperial Concubine, my brother Ling asked me to take a look at you and see if it was the people from Miaojiang who did it." Feng Yu acted like a little adult as she walked to Jingyu's side and spoke very seriously. Jingyu didn't refuse and stretched out her hand. She thought that Feng Yu was going to take her pulse, but unexpectedly, Feng Yu moved closer and sniffed lightly at Jingyu. Smelling the scent on Jingyu's body, this action made Shangguan Linglan and Feng Zhu dumbfounded. "What are you?" Shangguan Linglan couldn't help but go forward and pull Feng Yu away. Feng Zhu, who was at the side, also looked at Feng Yu with a conflicted expression. "What else could I be doing? Of course, I'm smelling the 9th Imperial Concubine's body to see if there is the scent of a venomous insect." Feng Yu pulled her hand, Feng Yu and the others, with a serious expression. "Brother Ling, you are making a big fuss over a small issue. Someone approached you and poisoned you, how could you not know?" Feng Yu furrowed her brows speechlessly and looked at Jingyu as she said, "You don't have the scent of a venomous insect. I'll go tell Brother Ling." Shangguan Linglan, who was at the side, was stunned when he heard this. He turned to look at Jingyu and said, "This little girl's nose is so sharp. It is pretty good." Jingyu's nose twitched slightly. She really couldn't smell anything. "I'm relieved to see that you are fine. If something had happened to you, Miaoqiu would probably sigh for a while and blame herself for this and that." Shangguan Linglan sat down and said helplessly, "It's fine. I just don't know who this assassin is." Jingyu responded faintly. Then, as if she thought of something, her eyes carried a faint trace of seriousness. The figure she saw in the carriage, that familiar face, and those incomparably cold eyes. For some reason, Jingyu felt that those eyes were staring at her stomach. It was so terrifying. As Jingyu thought this, her body couldn't help but tremble again. She raised her hand and tightly covered her stomach. Chapter 1857. When Shangguan Linglan and Feng Zhu saw Jingyu's actions, a trace of worry appeared in their eyes. "It's fine. We're in the mansion right now. You and the child are very safe," Feng Zhu said as he gently held Jingyu's hand. Jingyu nodded slowly. For some reason, she kept feeling uneasy. When she saw that black figure today, this uneasiness became even deeper. Jingyu personally saw Madame Nye stab Xiao Chen's arrow into Madame Nye's chest. How could Madame Nye still be alive? Moreover, Jingyu even watched as Xing Yi and Xing Er buried the body afterward. But today, Jingyu saw this person with her own eyes. How could she explain such a shocking scene? Jingyu frowned deeply. Could this Madame Nye be the same as Ling Xian? Could it be that she also faked her death? Ling Xian committed suicide by taking poison, and Jingyu didn't go forward to check or dispose of the body. If it was a fake death, it was still acceptable. But why was Madame Nye the same? Xiao Chen's sword couldn't have been fake, and the body was definitely dead when it was dragged down. But now, Jingyu really saw it. Or could it be that Jingyu saw wrongly? Or was she seeing wrongly? No, that was impossible. That pair of eyes were so clear. How could he have seen wrongly? It was absolutely impossible. Jingyu? Shengguan Linglong called out when he saw Jingyu in a daze. I'm fine. I'm just a bit tired. Jingyu sighed deeply and said, It's already so late. Don't go back. Let sister-in-law take you to rest. Jingyu turned to Shengguan Linglong and smiled faintly. It's getting more and more chaotic outside. It won't do if someone tries to harm you. Jingyu frowned. Her words made Shengguan Linglong choke on his words and nod slowly. After Shengguan Linglong and Feng Ju left, Jingyu lay on the bed and fell into a deep sleep. Jingyu's sleep was very restless. Her dreams were very chaotic. It seemed that there were cries everywhere and blood was everywhere. In the dream, that pair of eyes seemed to follow him like a shadow. That face, those scenes, there was Nailin Yu's face, Ling Xian's face, Jing Yan's face, Madame Nye's face. It was very chaotic, but it also seemed very clear. They were all shouting Jingyu's name at the top of their lungs. Their dark eyes were filled with hatred and murderous intent as they stared at Jingyu. In the dream, Madame Nye charged toward her stomach like a madwoman. Jingyu suddenly screamed and woke up from the dream. Her body was drenched in cold sweat as she frantically reached out to touch her stomach. Phew! Seeing that her stomach was still there, she instantly let out a sigh of relief. When Yin Xiao, who was guarding outside, heard Jingyu's scream, she hastily rushed in. Madam, are you okay? Did you have a nightmare? Yin Xiao looked at Jingyu's pale face, her eyes filled with worry as she asked. I'm fine. Jingyu shook her head. Yin Xiao poured a cup of warm water for Jingyu to drink. After being tormented like this, Jingyu didn't dare to sleep anymore. Her eyes looked around the room. For some reason, the feeling of being stared at was very deep. Could it be ghosts really existed in this world? Chapter 1858. If even a dead person like her could come back to life, it wasn't surprising that there were ghosts in this world. Jingyu's brows furrowed deeply as she thought of the scene in her dream. She covered her stomach with her hands and turned to look at Yin Xiao. Why isn't Xiao Chen back yet? Get someone to hurry him up. Jingyu had never disturbed Xiao Chen before, but today, she asked Yin Xiao to do it for the first time. Yin Xiao was slightly stunned when she heard Jingyu's words. She nodded and went to ask why the 9 emperors hadn't returned yet. Jingyu felt much more at ease when she saw Yin Xiao accompanying her. The person who went to hurry him returned quickly, and Xiao Chen naturally came back with him. Xiao Chen, you're back. Jingyu's anxious heart relaxed when she saw Xiao Chen. She stood up and walked towards Xiao Chen. What's wrong? Why did you call me back so anxiously? Xiao Chen took off his cloak and walked forward. Before he could say anything, Jingyu went up and hugged Xiao Chen. Xiao Chen's clothes were still slightly foggy. However, the fragrance on his body hadn't changed. Only when she hugged Xiao Chen did she feel so at ease. Did you have a nightmare? Xiao Chen raised his hand slightly and waved at Yin Xiao, patting Jingyu's back gently. There was a touch of gentleness in his eyes as he asked softly in Jingyu's ear. Then, Jingyu finally raised her head from Xiao Chen's embrace and looked at Xiao Chen. I just dreamed of Madame Nye. Did you investigate? Was that person Madame Nye? Xiao Chen caressed Jingyu's face. She's already dead. The person you saw might be someone else. Jingyu pursed her lips tightly. Her golden green eyes were very obvious as she looked at Xiao Chen with determination. No, that person is Madame Nye. Xiao Chen was at a loss for words when he saw Jingyu's gaze. In the end, he sighed deeply and said, I told Third Xing to go take a look at where Madame Nye was buried tomorrow. I personally killed her. How could she escape after being buried? Don't worry. Even if Madame Nye really comes back to life, I definitely won't let her touch you. Xiao Chen looked at Jingyu with determination. You've been tired all day. How about I sleep with you? And Jingyu only nodded slowly when she heard Xiao Chen's words. Her eyes were filled with exhaustion, and under Xiao Chen's gentle coaxing, she slowly closed her eyes. The tip of her nose was filled with Xiao Chen's scent. Probably because she knew Jingyu was by her side, she slowly closed her eyes in comfort and fell asleep bit by bit. Xiao Chen furrowed his brows slightly under the dim candlelight. Seeing Jingyu's face curve up slightly, he leaned over and planted a kiss between her brows. Xiao Chen reached out and hugged Jingyu in his arms, then closed his eyes as well. The night passed quickly. When Jingyu woke up, Xiao Chen was no longer by her side. Jingyu rubbed her neck. She felt like she slept too deeply. "In Xiao, where's the 9th Empress?" Jingyu asked as she got out of bed. "The 9th Empress took 3rd Xing out early in the morning," Yin Xiao replied. Yin Xiao replied as she said, "Before 9th Imperial Uncle left, he ordered the kitchen to prepare breakfast. He said that he wanted this servant to watch Madame eat." Chapter 1859. Jingyu's lips curled up slightly as she nodded with a faint smile on her face. The weather outside was pretty good. Jingyu walked outside and basked in the sun. The uncomfortable feeling from yesterday also dissipated a lot. Shengguan Linglan and Feng Zhu came over early in the morning. When they saw that Jingyu was recovering well, they immediately let out a sigh of relief. Shengguan Linglan then left. Jingyu also chased Feng Zhu away. Jingyu sat on a chair to rest. "Madam, the heir is here." Just as Jingyu closed her eyes to rest, she heard Yin Xiao's voice. Jingyu slowly opened her eyes and saw Xiao Bai, who was dressed in black, walking over. "Mother, are you all right?" Xiao Bai's eyes were filled with worry. His brows were deeply furrowed as he looked at Jingyu and asked, "Why you here?" Jingyu looked at Xiao Bai's slightly raised eyebrows. Seeing Xiao Bai's worried expression, she immediately smiled and said, "Do I look like I'm not all right?" "Mother, I only found out that you were attacked this morning. I came back late last night. Father didn't even send someone to inform me." When Xiao Bai said this, his face was filled with unhappiness. If he hadn't met Feng Yu a while ago, he really wouldn't have known until now. "Xiao Chen, I saw that you were working too hard during this period of time, so I didn't inform you. Don't put on such a long face." Jingyu reached out to touch Xiao Bai's cheek and said with a faint smile on her face, "Mother, I didn't even know that such a big thing happened. This child is unfilial." Xiao Bai obviously took this matter to heart. Jingyu looked at Xiao Bai's appearance and sighed helplessly. "Silly child, aren't I fine now?" Jingyu decisively changed the topic. She looked at Xiao Bai and said, "How are you getting used to the court these days? I see that you're so busy that you don't even play with Feng Yu." When Xiao Bai heard Jingyu's words, he was slightly stunned. Then he said seriously, "I will do well. Since I promised father and mother, I will not let you down. You don't have to work so hard. You're still young." Jingyu looked at Xiao Bai and her heart couldn't bear it. "I like it." Xiao Bai's eyebrows slightly raised. The determination in his eyes caused Jingyu's smile. She pulled Xiao Bai to the side to sit down and sat down. But Jingyu, when Jingyu Feng was, Xiao Bai obviously didn't want to talk to her. When Jing you was ahead. Yu's daughter? Jingyu was slightly stunned. She turned her head to look at Xiao Bai. When she saw Xiao Bai's bright eyes, she immediately understood. She raised her hand and called someone in. Yun lived in the palace, so her clothes were naturally very appropriate. Looking at her, she seemed to be more and more beautiful. Yun greets Madam. Yun was a person of Jianghu. Her posture was naturally that of a Jianghu person, but she was still polite. "Rise." Jingyu looked at Yun's body. Her eyes carried a faint expression as she said, "She's a little beauty." Chapter 1860. "Madam, you're the most beautiful woman Yunner has ever seen." Yun blushed. "Ha!" Jingyu laughed out loud. She looked at Yun quietly and said, "You're such a sweet talker. Not bad." Jingyu arched her brows as she looked at Yun. She was reminded of the Yun she'd met back at the poison sect. She's such an attentive child. She's so pretty now. She was wild enough back in the poison sect, but she's much more refined now. She must have thought of Jingyu as an enemy. How could she treat her with such respect? I heard that Brother Xiaobai was here, so I came to find you. Yun looked at Jingyu boldly and said, Mother told me to come see Madam, so I came. I heard that Madam was attacked last night. Are you all right? Madam Yun, thank you for your concern. I'm fine. Jingyu raised her eyebrows slightly. And Yuqing was really quiet in the manner. She didn't come out at all. She only came out occasionally to look for Yun. It's good that Madam is fine. Yun knew that the heavens would help a good person like Madam. You'll be fine. Yun's mouth was very clever. While Jingyu and Yun were talking, the courtyard was very lively. Just as everyone started talking, a loud shout came from outside, Ninth Imperial Concubine, I'm here to see you. Apart from Fengyu, who else could make such a big fuss in this courtyard without a care in the world? Fengyu walked in with a bag of medicine in her hand. She looked very natural, but the moment she walked in and saw the situation in front of her, her expression stiffened. The servant chasing after Fengyu probably didn't expect Xiaobai and Yun to be here as well. Jingyu waved her hand slightly. She knew that the servant wouldn't be able to stop Fengyu. Xiaobai frowned deeply when he saw Fengyu's lack of etiquette and careless manner. He even called out to Jingyu in such a casual manner. His gaze was filled with displeasure as he stared at Fengyu. When Fengyu saw Xiaobai's gaze, the corners of her mouth immediately curled into a mocking smile. I was wondering who it was that stopped me from entering. So it's little sister Yun? Fengyu chuckled as she walked towards Yun and spoke in a very casual manner. Big sister Fengyu, are you also here to see Madam? Yun blinked her eyes curiously and asked Fengyu. Of course not. Fengyu raised the medicine bag in her hand and waved it at Jingyu. She said, I met Feng Zicheng on the way. He asked me to bring you medicine. Medicine? Jingyu frowned. Last night, Feng Zicheng asked me about it. I thought you were frightened, but young Master Feng was still worried. He personally went to get the medicine for you, but he didn't have the time to bring it over. So he asked me to bring it over. Fengyu said calmly. When she spoke, she even emphasized the words not free. Looking at Jingyu's you know what I mean expression, Xiaobai, who was at the side, frowned. Why did the meaning of her words give him a strange feeling? Leave it. Thank Zicheng on my behalf. Jingyu's expression changed slightly, but the expression on her face didn't change. She said this very calmly. Fengyu frowned in confusion. Chapter 1861. Are all of you adults always so annoying? Fengyu said as she put the medicine in her hand on the table. She looked at Jingyu and said, I heard that you don't sleep well. Coincidentally, I have a sachet here. If you put this beside your pillow, it might make you feel more at ease. Fengyu said as she took off the sachet hanging on her waist and said, if it weren't for the fact that you treat my brother Ling well, I wouldn't give it to you. Fifth. Jingyu looked at Fengyu's proud little appearance and immediately raised her eyebrows and said, then I really have to thank Miss Feng. You should indeed thank me. Fengyu replied seriously. Then she straightened her body and said, okay, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first. I won't disturb everyone. Fengyu said as she calmly turned her head and smiled at Xiaobai and Yun. Then she turned and left. Why do I feel that? Big sister Fengyu doesn't like me? Yun looked at Fengyu's back as she left and frowned slightly. Fengyu's temper is just this impatient. You don't have to take it to heart. If only she was half as obedient as you. When Jingyu said this, she seemed to be praising Yun, but her eyes couldn't hide the helplessness she felt towards Fengyu. How did this look like she didn't like Yun? Pei Xiaobai, take Yun out. I'm tired. Jingyu smiled at Xiaobai and said, don't worry too much. You have to pay attention to your own rest, okay? Yes, I understand. Xiaobai replied. Jingyu looked at the way Xiaobai took Yun away. The way the two of them talked and laughed made Jingyu frown slightly. On the other side, after Xiaobai went out, he passed by a corridor on the side and was talking to Yun. However, when he turned his head, he accidentally saw a small foot dangling from a big tree. Brother Xiaobai? Yun said for a long time, but she didn't hear any response from Xiaobai. She immediately called out in confusion. "Wait for me here." As Xiaobai spoke, he leaped over the railing and walked towards the large tree. When he raised his head, he indeed saw the person lying on the tree trunk. He was wearing dark clothes and was looking at a leaf in his hand. Fengyu. Xiaobai saw Fengyu staring at the leaves in a daze and immediately frowned as he called out to her. "Ah!" Fengyu was shocked and almost fell from the tree. Fortunately, she quickly grabbed onto the tree trunk and stared at Xiaobai, who was standing below. "Come down," Xiaobai said again. Fengyu froze for a moment, then looked at Xiaobai with amusement and said, "Why should I go down? Why is our heir apparent looking for a wild girl like me? If you have something to say, just say it. It wasn't easy for me to climb up here. I don't want to go down." "I told you to come down." Xiaobai was a little angry. Fengyu didn't give in at all. Anger flashed in Xiaobai's eyes. He took 2 steps back and suddenly jumped up. He stepped on the tree trunk and jumped up to the branch, then squatted in front of Fengyu. Fengyu's eyes widened. She knew that Xiaobai was skilled, but she didn't expect him to be so good at climbing trees. "Oh, you have some skills." Fengyu didn't know how to praise people. She just smiled faintly. "Fengyu, I'm warning you." Xiaobai narrowed his eyes and said, "In the future, when you are in front of my mother, restrain your wild temper. If I see you disrespect my mother again, don't blame me for being impolite." Chapter 1862. When Fengyu heard Xiaobai's words, the expression on her face quickly changed. She didn't know if it was because of anger or something else, but the corner of her mouth curled into a mocking smile. She turned her head to look at Xiaobai and said, "I'm really sorry, this is how I am." After speaking, Fengyu ignored Xiaobai and suddenly jumped down from the tree. When she landed steadily, she happened to see Yun running over with small steps. "Big sister Fengyu?" When Yun saw Fengyu, she was obviously stunned and called out very politely, "Don't call me sister like that. There isn't much difference between us." Fengyu hesitantly said, "I don't have a sister, only a brother." But Yun was stunned when she heard Fengyu's words. She lowered her head cautiously as if she felt that she had done something wrong. "Fengyu, how can you say that?" Xiaobai's shout came from behind. Fengyu personally saw Xiaobai standing in front of Yun. His protective appearance was so glaring that it caused Fengyu's hand to slightly tighten. "I'm just speaking the truth." Fengyu shrugged indifferently and indifferently turned around to walk outside. She opened her mouth and said, "Don't worry, I won't do anything to your sweetheart. I don't care." "Fengyu." Xiaobai was flustered and exasperated. He didn't know if it was because of Fengyu's words or because of Fengyu's attitude. Either way, Xiaobai's heart was filled with panic. When Yun heard these words, she stood in place with a face full of shock. "Damn girl." Xiaobai coldly scolded. When he turned around and saw Yun's burning gaze, she blushed and softly called out, "Brother Xiaobai." "That." Xiaobai looked at Yun's appearance and an unnatural expression appeared on his face. He slightly raised his hand and said, "I still have some things to take care of. I'll leave first." After speaking, he left as if he was escaping. Fengyu hid in a dark corner and personally witnessed this scene. Xiaobai treated Yun completely differently from how he treated her. "Peh." Fengyu laughed disdainfully. She turned around and walked out of the residence with her head lowered. Her eyes flashed with the scenes she had seen during this period of time. That person who was so gentle to Yun, when facing her, other than speaking ill of her, was threatening her. Fengyu kept telling herself not to look and not to listen, but she couldn't help but listen and watch again. Outside the mansion, Fengyu didn't look where she was going and directly rushed out. But when she rushed out, she suddenly bumped into someone. She didn't pay attention and fell to the ground. Her palm was scraped and burned with pain. When this feeling came, Fengyu's eyes immediately turned red. Xiaobai bullied her, and this damned sandstone bullied her as well. Why was it always like this? Thinking about it, Fengyu's eyes turned red. "Miss, are you all right?" A greeting came from above. The handsome man frowned slightly. He looked to be about 15 or 16 years old, but there was a sense of calmness in his eyes. Go away. Feng Yu fiercely swung her hand and forced herself to stand up. She did not raise her head no matter what and was about to walk out with her head lowered. However, the instant she took a step, her wrist was grabbed by someone. Feng Yu was slightly stunned. Just as she was about to speak, she heard a very calm voice. Chapter 1863. You're injured. The gentle voice sounded gentle, but it also seemed to be cold and distant. Feng Yu looked at the hand that was grabbing her and was slightly stunned. Then she looked up at the man. The first thing she saw was a handsome and unfamiliar face. He was much taller than her. A pair of dark eyes looked down at her palm. Then he turned around and was stunned when he saw Feng Yu's red eyes. Sorry. The man frowned and said sincerely, I didn't mean to bump into you. Actually, Feng Yu didn't look where she was going. However, seeing that Feng Yu was crying, he naturally pursed his lips and apologized first. Feng Yu looked at the man who was still grabbing her hand. She frowned and said, How long do you plan on grabbing my hand? Sorry. The man was slightly shocked and quickly let go. Feng Yu retracted her hand and looked at the person in front of her curiously. She narrowed her eyes and said, Who are you? Why are you in the palace? Why haven't I seen you before? Xiao Yijuan. The man raised his eyebrows. Why did Feng Yu's tone sound like a master? Feng Yu's expression suddenly became strange. She calmly raised her eyebrows and said, You bumped into me and even injured me. You made me cry. How are you going to compensate me? Feng Yu asked with narrowed eyes. Let the housekeeper take you down to bandage your wounds. After I see the 9th imperial concubine, I'll come and apologize to you. Xiao Yijuan frowned and said after hearing Feng Yu's words. I know you went because of the assassination attempt on the 9th imperial concubine yesterday. She's fine now and should be resting. You won't be able to see her even if you go. Feng Yu curled her lips and said, Now, you better serve me well. Otherwise, I'll tell the 9th imperial concubine that you molested me. Feng Yu looked at Xiao Yijuan and said righteously. Instantly, Xiao Yijuan's face could be described as black charcoal. He pursed his lips and stared at Feng Yu. Why would I molest you? Unless I'm blind, Xiao Yijuan said as he turned to the servant beside him and said, Bring her down to bandage her wounds. Feng Yu stood in place, dumbfounded. Her eyes were filled with astonishment as she watched Xiao Yijuan turn around. Then, she thought about what she had just heard and immediately felt a burning rage in her heart. How dare you speak to me like that? Feng Yu charged toward Xiao Yijuan in a barbaric manner. Feng Yu was dressed appropriately, but he did not expect her to be so rude and unreasonable. She did not care about etiquette at all and charged toward Xiao Yijuan. She slammed into Xiao Yijuan with great force. Xiao Yijuan was not paying attention and his body was thrown forward. He steadied himself in a somewhat sorry state. Haha. Feng Yu laughed wantonly. When he saw Xiao Yijuan's gloomy expression as he turned around, alarm bells rang in his heart. Without thinking, he ran out of the palace. After running for a long time and not seeing anyone chasing after him, he slowly let out a sigh of relief. Where did this person come from? This is too fun. After being disturbed by Xiao Yijuan, Feng Yu's mood instantly improved. She looked at the scratches on her hands and did not think much of it. She had suffered more injuries than this since she was young. Chapter 1864. Xiao Yijuan stood where he was and remained silent for a while. Then, he turned to the servant and asked, Who is that girl? Xiao Yijuan already knew that there were many people living in the mansion. Obviously, this girl was not the daughter of an official. Xiao Yijuan frowned slightly as if he was thinking about something. She is the sister of the Dark Insect's leader. Her name is Feng Yu. She is a devil incarnate. Young master, please don't take it to heart. The servant said worriedly. He was really afraid that Xiao Yijuan would hold a grudge against her. Feng Yu did not know Xiao Yijuan, but everyone in the mansion knew him. Xiao Yijuan could be considered half a young master of the mansion. Although he was adopted by the 9th emperors, He had always been treated as a master. Feng Yu. Xiao Yijuan nodded slightly and did not say much. He turned around and said, I heard that the Crown Prince is now taking care of the mansion's affairs. I have met you once before, but I have never really met you. Today, I have to pay you a visit. The prince's mansion was still bustling with noise and excitement. Feng Yu played outside for a long time before she came back with some snacks. Once she came back, she went straight to Jing Yu's room. The manservant standing by the door used to stop Feng Yu. Now that he knew that he couldn't stop Feng Yu, he simply gave up. The manservant wanted to remind Feng Yu that there was someone else in the room, but before he could say anything, he heard Feng Yu's loud shouts. The 9th Imperial Concubine. Look at what delicious food I brought for you. Feng Yu smiled and strode into the room. She raised the snack box in her hand. She was still smiling, but the moment she entered, she was stunned when she saw the person in the room. Why are you here? Feng Yu's eyes were full of shock as she looked at Xiao Yijuan, who was wearing a blue robe and holding a chess piece in his hand, playing chess with Jing Yu. Her face was full of surprise. Do you know each other? Jing Yu did not look surprised when she saw Feng Yu making a big fuss. She looked calmly at Feng Yu and Xiao Yijuan and asked with raised eyebrows in amusement. I don't know her. When Feng Yu heard Jing Yu's question, she knew that Xiao Yijuan had not told her about what had happened at the entrance of the residence today. Jing Yu frowned, her eyes filled with confusion. The 9th Imperial Concubine has brought out delicious food. Your child must be hungry. Feng Yu giggled as she placed the dessert box on the chessboard. The game was immediately disrupted. Xiao Yijuan frowned. Lend him to me for a while. Feng Yu grabbed Xiao Yijuan without hesitation and dragged him outside. Jing Yu looked at the two of them with a face full of shock. From the looks of it, the two of them really knew each other? You mustn't tell the 9th Imperial Concubine about what happened today. Please. After Feng Yu was sure that Jing Yu could not hear her, she clasped her hands together and looked at Xiao Yijuan with a pleading expression. Xiao Yijuan thought that Feng Yu wanted to do something, but it turned out that it was because of this. Didn't you say that you were going to tell the 9th Imperial Concubine that I molested you? Xiao Yijuan raised his eyebrows and said with interest. Young master, why would such a beautiful person like you molest me? I was just joking. Feng Yu said with a smile. Chapter 1865. Is that so? Xiao Yijuan asked with a faint smile. Yes. Absolutely. Feng Yu answered seriously, but her heart was full of resentment. If Jing Yu and Brother Ling found out about this, she would be dead for sure. Therefore, she could not let Jing Yu know about this. Are you going to agree or not? Feng Yu had been waiting for a long time, but Xiao Yijuan still did not answer. Seeing Xiao Yijuan dawdling, Feng Yu's temper flared up again, and her voice became louder. Xiao Yijuan instantly frowned. His handsome brows furrowed, and Feng Yu wailed in her heart. I just wanted to ask if you've thought it through? Feng Yu swallowed silently and tried her best to suppress her temper. That depends on your performance. After Xiao Yijuan spoke, he calmly turned around and entered the house. Inside the house, Jing Yu was eating the desserts that Feng Yu had brought over. When she turned her head and saw Xiao Yijuan return, she immediately raised her eyebrows. When she turned her head again, she saw Feng Yu following behind Xiao Yijuan with a conflicted expression. She was surprised. This Xiao Yijuan was so powerful that he could subdue Feng Yu. 9th Imperial Concubine. Xiao Yijuan nodded slightly at Jing Yu. Jing Yu raised her hand and gestured for Xiao Yijuan to sit down. Feng Yu did not wait for Jing Yu to greet her and sat down at the side. She stared at Xiao Yijuan with disdain, but there was nothing she could do. What did you say to her? You were gone for so long. Jing Yu raised her eyebrows and asked. Xiao Yijuan paused when he heard that. He turned his head and looked to the side. He saw that Feng Yu had become nervous and was blinking at Xiao Yijuan anxiously. It's just that Miss Feng Yu wants me to stay in this residence for a few more days. Xiao Yijuan lied without batting an eyelid. Jing Yu and Feng Yu were both stunned. Xiao Yijuan turned to Feng Yu and asked, Is that so, Miss Feng Yu? That's it. Feng Yu nodded with great difficulty. She didn't know why, but she felt as if she had jumped into a huge pit. I didn't expect your relationship to be so good. Jing Yu looked at the two of them with interest. She smiled and said, speaking of which, Yijuan, you are now living in the bachelor's dormitory. Why don't you move back to the prince's mansion? The 9th imperial concubine. Xiao Yijuan was slightly taken aback. Now, he was the one who felt embarrassed. I still have a lot of things to do in the academy, and it might not be appropriate for me to move back here. However, I hope that the 9th imperial concubine won't dislike me when I visit the prince's residence more often in the future, Xiao Yijuan said as he bowed slightly towards Jingyu. There was a faint smile in his eyes as he looked at Jingyu. Of course not. Jingyu smiled. She wasn't used to Yijuan being so polite after he had grown up. Jingyu casually responded and said, if you like, you can come and play more often. You can also get to know Xiaobai better. In the future, you will be able to take care of each other in the officialdom. Thank you, 9th imperial concubine. Xiao Yijuan was full of joy as he thanked her. Phew. Feng Yu silently sighed in relief. It was good that she didn't move in. Otherwise, looking at the situation today, her future days would definitely be difficult. Also, Feng Yu, you went to the restaurant again today? Why did you bring me so many pastries? Jingyu looked at Feng Yu with arched eyebrows. Chapter 1866. Jingyu turned to look at Xiao Yijuan and said, you're very considerate. It's getting late. Yijuan, you should rest in the prince's mansion tonight. The room is still the room you used to live in. I've kept it for you. Thank you, 9th imperial concubine. Xiao Yijuan nodded. Feng Yu, can you take Yijuan to rest? Jingyu turned to Feng Yu and asked. Feng Yu opened her mouth to refuse, but when she saw Xiao Yijuan's gaze, her face instantly fell. She silently nodded in agreement. After leaving the courtyard, Feng Yu walked as fast as she could in an attempt to shake off Xiao Yijuan. However, after walking for half a day, she still couldn't shake off the person behind her. Instead, she was exhausted. Feng Yu sat at the side to rest and glared at Xiao Yijuan. This young master thought that you could fly. But do you know how to be tired now? Xiao Yijuan leaned against a pillar and looked at Feng Yu. The corners of his mouth curled into a faint smile as he asked calmly. Don't you know the way? Why do you still need me to lead you? Feng Yu glared at Xiao Yijuan. It was the 9th imperial concubine who asked you to lead the way. What does that have to do with me? Xiao Yijuan tilted his head slightly and looked at the dark sky and the lit candles. He looked at the scenery in the mansion and was momentarily dazed. He didn't think that so much time had passed in the blink of an eye. However, the scenery in the mansion was still the same. It was really interesting. Hey, you still haven't told me. What's your relationship with the 9th imperial concubine? Feng Yu asked Xiao Yijuan curiously. Xiao Yijuan tilted his head slightly when he heard Feng Yu's words. He thought carefully for a while and seemed to be thinking about it too. Probably brother and sister. Xiao Yijuan thought back to the time when Jingyu forced him to call her sister. However, he couldn't remember if he had ever called her that. Huh. Feng Yu jumped up in surprise when she heard this. She went to Xiao Yijuan's side and said, then according to seniority, doesn't Xiao Bai have to call you uncle? Xiao Yijuan frowned. Xiao Bai has to call you uncle. Feng Yu seemed to have thought of something funny. Suddenly he burst into laughter in the corridor. He didn't try to hide it. He laughed so happily that Xiao Yijuan was slightly dazed by his appearance. It was as if they had returned to the past. Jingyu was also this unrestrained. She did not care about how others looked at her. No matter where she was, she would smile like this when she was happy. This smile seemed to be contagious, and it made Xiao Yijuan's eyes darken. What a crazy woman. Xiao Yijuan called her a familiar name. Back then, when he faced Jingyu, he also called her an ugly woman and a crazy woman. What did you say? You're the crazy one. Feng Yu was immediately enraged. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws, wanting to pounce on Xiao Yijuan. However, when she approached Xiao Yijuan, Xiao Yijuan immediately grabbed her wrist. What are you doing? Are you going to molest me again? Feng Yu made a fuss about nothing. However, after she finished speaking, she saw Xiao Yijuan's hands staring at her. She immediately tried to withdraw her hand unnaturally, but Xiao Yijuan suddenly tightened his grip. You're injured. Don't you know how to bandage yourself? There was a faint anger in Xiao Yijuan's eyes. Feng Yu opened her mouth to speak but stopped when she saw Xiao Yuling's expression. Chapter 1867. I just forgot all of a sudden, Feng Yu said quietly. It's not easy for you to live well in the pugilistic world until now, Xiao Yijuan said calmly. Feng Yu's eyes widened when she heard Xiao Yijuan's words. She was about to retort when Xiao Yijuan grabbed her hand and led her forward. Hey, where are you taking me? Xiao Yijuan. Feng Yu yelled from behind, but Xiao Yijuan didn't care at all. The room was brightly lit by candles. Xiao Yijuan turned to look at Feng Yu, who was looking around, and said calmly, You've never seen a man's bedroom? Who said so? Of course I've seen it. When Feng Yu heard Xiao Yijuan's words, she immediately jumped up as if someone had stepped on her tail. Her eyes were filled with embarrassment as she stared at Xiao Yijuan and said, Looking at you, I know you often bring women in. Give me your hand. Xiao Yijuan raised his eyebrows calmly and did not refute. Feng Yu mumbled something in her heart. Her heart trembled slightly when she saw Xiao Yijuan applying medicine for her. Hey, you really look like my brother Ling, Feng Yu said as she blinked at Xiao Yijuan. Ah. Xiao Yijuan's face turned cold and he said rudely, If I had a sister like you, my life would probably be shortened. Bastard. Someone like you. Someone with a short life. Feng Yu said angrily as she glared at Xiao Yijuan. Xiao Yijuan reached out to tie a knot and applied a little force. Feng Yu immediately cried out, Do you know how to bandage? Be careful. Xiao Yijuan looked up at Feng Yu and said, I thought you weren't afraid of pain. After all, you can endure not bandaging for so long, right? Just as Feng Yu was about to retort, she heard the sound of an announcement coming from outside. Young master, Master Shitzi is here, the servant said carefully. Please come in, Xiao Yijuan nodded slightly and said calmly as he stood up. Xiao Bai walked in with brisk steps. His expression did not change at all, but when he saw Feng Yu sitting in the room, a trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. Then, his face gradually turned cold. Why are you here? Xiao Bai found it strange. He didn't look at Xiao Yijuan the moment he came in. Instead, he looked at Xiao Yijuan. No reason. If you can come, why can't I? Feng Yu smiled nonchalantly. She turned to Xiao Yijuan and said, Thank you for today. Seeing that you have a guest, I won't disturb you any longer. I'll leave first. As Feng Yu spoke, she stood up and waved slightly at Xiao Yijuan. She was about to walk out when Xiao Bai saw Feng Yu's bandaged hand when she waved her hand. What happened to your hand? Xiao Bai frowned and asked. What does it have to do with you? Feng Yu replied coldly and turned to leave. Just as Xiao Bai was about to call out to Feng Yu, he heard Xiao Yijuan's voice. Master Shitzi, why are you looking for me? Xiao Bai paused and turned to look at Xiao Yijuan. He frowned slightly and said, I heard from Mother that you're in the mansion. I have something to ask you. Master Shitzi, please sit. Xiao Yijuan nodded slightly. Chapter 1868. The weather was getting colder and the night wasn't necessarily peaceful. Xiao Chen had been out for an entire day and only returned late at night, bringing with him a cool breeze. Without Xiao Chen by her side, Jing Yu couldn't sleep peacefully. At this moment, she was already yawning and reading a book. When she heard the voice of the servant girl outside, she immediately put down the book in her hand and a hint of surprise appeared in her eyes. Xiao Chen, you're back. Jing Yu stood up and looked at Xiao Chen, who was striding into the room and taking off his cloak. Why are you still awake at this time? Xiao Chen saw that Jing Yu was still awake and frowned slightly, his eyes filled with dissatisfaction. How is it? Jing Yu looked at Xiao Chen nervously and asked. I'll go wash up and tell you slowly. Xiao Chen raised his hand and touched Jing Yu's cheek. He gently smiled and said, "It's cold at night. Go inside and rest." Jingyu nodded and agreed. Xiaochen then went to wash up. Jingyu waited for a while before she saw Xiaochen return. He was wearing a simple inner garment and a coat. After entering the room, he took off his coat. When Jingyu turned her head, she saw the faint tiredness in Xiaochen's eyes and her heart ached. "You've worked hard." Jingyu saw that Xiaochen was lying down and then gently went forward to massage Xiaochen's shoulders. "You is so virtuous. Your husband is really overwhelmed by your favor." Xiaochen followed Jingyu's massage. It was obvious that he hadn't served anyone before and was just randomly massaging. Xiaochen paused and reached out to take Jingyu's hand away. "Today, I took Third Xing to the place where Madame Nye was buried." Xiaochen didn't hide anything and looked deeply at Jingyu and said, "The body is still there." "It's still there?" Jingyu's eyes instantly widened. Her body went limp and she looked at Xiaochen with some fear. "But I discovered that the body wasn't Madame Nye's." Xiaochen frowned deeply at Jingyu and said, "It's obvious that this is a female body that was replaced." "What? How could this be?" Jingyu looked at Xiaochen in shock. Xiaochen's expression was also very serious. He frowned deeply and said, "I don't know what's going on either. I had people search for footprints in the surrounding area. In the process of searching, I saw that the footprints indeed led to the Taoist temple on the mountain outside the city." Xiaochen said again. "There must be some connection. There's really nothing in this Taoist temple?" A very strange thought rose in Jingyu's mind. She seemed to have thought of something and turned to ask Xiaochen, "Have you searched outside this Taoist temple? There might be some secret passageways around the Taoist temple." Jingyu thought back to when she was out on a mission in the past and encountered a similar situation. She looked deeply at Xiaochen and said, "We can't let go of these details. Now that you mention it, you reminded me." Xiaochen nodded slowly and said, "I've been staring at the inside of the Taoist temple and neglected the outside. I'll check it out again tomorrow." "Based on what you said, Madame Nye might have been rescued by someone and is still alive," Jingyu said with a deep frown. "The person I saw was definitely Madame Nye. It can't be wrong." Chapter 1869. Jingyu said with incomparable determination. Xiaochen also frowned seriously. "Madame Nye is back? What's her motive?" Jingyu felt more and more uneasy. "Don't worry, I won't give her a chance to do anything." Xiaochen looked at Jingyu's worried expression and reached out to hug Jingyu. "This time, I won't give her a chance to do anything. Don't worry." Jingyu slowly lowered her eyes. Although she agreed, her furrowed brows didn't relax. "You don't have to worry about these things. Giving birth to the child is the most important thing," Xiaochen said as he reached out to stroke Jingyu's stomach. "Today, I also received news from Miracle Physician Valley that Little Potato is back." "Really?" This was probably the best news Jingyu had heard in a while. When Jingyu heard Xiaochen's words, her eyes were filled with joy. She abruptly straightened her body and looked at Xiaochen in surprise. "You're saying that Little Potato is coming back?" "Yes, Little Potato is coming back," Xiaochen replied as he nodded slowly. "That's great, Little Potato is really fine. He's coming back." Jingyu's eyes instantly became misty. Her worry and longing for Little Potato had always been suppressed in her heart. Now that she finally heard this news, she instantly felt hot tears brimming in her eyes. "I already said that Little Potato is our child. How could anything happen to him?" Xiaochen hugged Jingyu with heartache. His calm words seemed to carry some sort of reassurance. Jingyu nodded repeatedly in Xiaochen's arms. This night seemed to be much more peaceful. Jingyu didn't know how she fell asleep in Xiaochen's arms. She only knew that when she woke up, she was still hugging Xiaochen's body. Xiaochen was still sleeping soundly. It seemed like he was exhausted from the past few days. Jingyu's eyes were filled with heartache. She hugged Xiaochen tighter and closed her eyes again. Xiaochen seemed to feel something as he turned around slightly and hugged Jingyu in his arms. When the two of them woke up again, they didn't know how much time had passed. "Your arm is numb?" Jingyu looked at Xiaochen rubbing his arm and knew that she must have fallen asleep. She suddenly felt a little embarrassed. It's just that I slept for a long time. Can your little weight crush me? Xiao Chen raised his eyebrows slightly and said to Jingyu. Jingyu smiled when she heard Xiao Chen's words. She sat at the table at the side and ate her breakfast. Xiao Chen also ate his breakfast before leaving. Jingyu watched Xiao Chen leave. She raised her hand and caressed her stomach in a daze. She was a little worried. She wanted to help now, but there was nothing she could do. The most important thing right now was to give birth to the child in her stomach. When Xiao Chen brought third Xing out of the residence, he bumped into Xiao Yijuan on the stone path. He didn't expect Xiao Chen to be here, but his expression didn't change. Xiao Yijuan, on the other hand, had a look of surprise in his eyes. Ninth Emperors. Xiao Yijuan bowed slightly to Xiao Chen. How did you have time to come to the residence? Did you go to see the imperial concubine? Xiao Chen nodded slightly and asked Xiao Yijuan. I saw her yesterday. The Ninth Emperors didn't come back, so I didn't see her. Xiao Yijuan seemed a little reserved as he said. Xiao Chen nodded slightly. Chapter 1870. Yes, you can chat with the imperial concubine when you have time. Xiaobai has a lot of things he doesn't understand about the court, so you two can talk about it. Xiao Chen nodded slightly, then turned around and said, there are still some small matters that need to be taken care of. Yes, farewell, Ninth Emperors. Xiao Yijuan immediately retreated to the side and cupped his hands as he looked at Xiao Chen's departing figure. That ink-black robe was just like the one in his memory. Even after so long, Xiao Yijuan still clearly remembered the moment Xiao Chen stood beside him and asked him in a very calm voice, will you leave with me? That black-robed man, the Ninth Emperors that he respected, would not change because of time. He was so silent, but it was like the dawn of his life. You've been standing here for so long, the Ninth Emperors have left long ago. As Xiao Yijuan stood in place, he suddenly heard a familiar voice. He was stunned for a moment, and when he turned his head, he saw Feng Yu's curious little face. Although the Ninth Emperors is incomparably handsome, you're a man. Why are you looking so closely? Feng Yu seemed to be very puzzled as she asked. What nonsense are you talking about? Xiao Yijuan reached out and knocked Feng Yu's head. He glared at Feng Yu and said, I'm leaving. Where are you going? Feng Yu was slightly stunned. She touched her head and blocked Xiao Yijuan. She said very confusedly, could it be that you were provoked by my words just now? Are you angry? You're a man. How can you be so petty? Feng Yu exclaimed. There's something going on in the academy. I need to go out, Xiao Yijuan said helplessly. Feng Yu heard this and nodded absent-mindedly. So it was like that. After seeing Xiao Yijuan leave, she heaved a sigh of relief. She thought that Xiao Yijuan was angered by her. If those words were to reach Feng Ling's ears, she would definitely lose a layer of skin. Thinking of this, Feng Yu curled her lips and went to play. Feng Yu thought that she hadn't seen Feng Maching for some time, so she turned and went to Feng Maching's room. When she stepped into the room, she saw Feng Maching staring outside in a daze. He didn't say a word, and he didn't react at all even when Feng Yu came. Feng Maching? And Feng? Uncle Feng? Feng Yu silently called out a few times, but Feng Maching didn't respond to her. Why did such a fine person suddenly turn silly? Feng Yu looked at Feng Maching and sat at the side, staring at Feng Maching as she said in a conflicted manner. Big sister Feng Yu. Just as Feng Yu was staring at Feng Maching, he suddenly heard a familiar form of address and was slightly stunned. When he turned his head to look, he saw Yun Yun quickly walking into the house with a bowl of rice in her hands. Yuns, why are you here? Feng Yu looked at Yun Yun and her expression was very interesting. I'm here to deliver food. Yun Yun smiled sweetly and said, I've been in the prince's mansion for so long. It's better to find something to do before. Yun Yun's words were so serious that it made Feng Yu feel uncomfortable. Feng Yu had arrived earlier than Yun Yun, but she had been here for so long. It was already good enough that she didn't cause any trouble. How could she take the initiative to do something? Cough cough. You're really sensible. Feng Yu smiled silently. Looking at Yun Yun's familiar appearance, she felt even more embarrassed. She casually found an excuse to sit on the stone table outside the courtyard. Chapter 1871. When Yun Yun poked her head out, she happened to see Feng Yu sitting to the side and immediately came over curiously. "What's wrong?" Feng Yu asked Yun Yun with a slight frown. "Big sister Feng Yu, I heard that you and big brother Xiaobai grew up together. Then do you know what big brother Xiaobai likes to eat the most?" Yun Yun looked at Feng Yu expectantly and said, "I want to personally make something delicious for big brother Xiaobai." Feng Yu's breath paused and she said with an unnatural expression, "How would I know what Xiaobai likes to eat? I see that you're so close to Xiaobai. Why don't you just ask him directly?" Feng Yu said calmly, "I want to give big brother Xiaobai a surprise." Yun Yun said with a slightly red face, "My mother said that big brother Xiaobai treats me very well. I want to remember it and repay big brother Xiaobai, so I want to make something delicious for big brother Xiaobai." "You really put in a lot of effort," Feng Yu said quietly. "Big sister Feng Yu, think about it carefully. What does big brother Xiaobai like to eat?" Yun Yun looked at Feng Yu expectantly. Feng Yu opened her mouth to say that she didn't know, but she suddenly remembered that Xiaobai once told her that the day he was found by Jingyu, he ate the roasted pheasant personally roasted by Jingyu. It was the most delicious thing he had ever eaten in his life. He said that he would remember it for the rest of his life. It was probably something he liked. Feng Yu looked down at Yun Yun and said, "He should like to eat roasted pheasant." Yun Yun's face fell and she frowned in confusion. Yun Yun was the daughter of the poison sect's eldest young master and had been doted on since she was young. How could she know how to catch a pheasant? She definitely didn't know how to roast pheasant. "This pheasant, where do I go to catch it?" Yun Yun's eyes were filled with disappointment. "It's not easy to make something like this, so you shouldn't make it," Feng Yu said as she stood up calmly. Yun Yun anxiously grabbed Feng Yu's hand and said, "Big sister Feng Yu, you definitely know how to make it, right? Can you teach me?" Yun Yun looked at Feng Yu with grievance and said, "If I really want to make it, can you teach me?" "Me neither." Feng Yu refused without even thinking about it. However, Yun Yun tugged at Feng Yu's sleeve and refused to let go. Her eyes immediately turned red. Seeing that Yun Yun was about to cry, Feng Yu immediately waved her hand. "Why are you crying? Don't cry. I'll help. I'll help you, okay?" Feng Yu frowned with a headache. How could this little girl cry so easily? "Really? Big sis Feng Yu, you're really willing to help me. That's great." Yun Yun was about to cry a second ago, but in the next second, she returned to normal. This change in expression really made Feng Yu's eyes twitch fiercely. However, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry in his heart. Since he had already agreed, there was no reason for him to go back on his word. Yun Yun happily went to retrieve the lunchbox in the house. Feng Yu glanced at it. Feng Maching didn't eat much at all. How could he recover if this went on? "Wait here for a moment." As Feng Yu spoke, she reached out and took the food box. She rushed into the house and closed the door with a bang. She reached out and placed the food box in front of Feng Maching. She said with a cold face, "Feng Maching, do you want to die? You've been here all day without eating or drinking." Feng Yu glared at Feng Maching and said, Chapter 1872. If you don't want to live anymore, just say it. There's no need to pretend to be half dead here. Feng Yu narrowed her eyes and said, "If you die, everything will be over. No one will be able to see you, and then the people you care about will slowly forget you. From then on, there will be no Feng Maching in this world. Why don't you kill yourself? What's the point of keeping you in this state?" Feng Yu's words could be said to be merciless. She glared at Feng Maching and said, "Anyway, you don't want to fight for what you want, so there's nothing to be reluctant to leave, right?" When Feng Yu said this, she suddenly saw Feng Maching's eyes change slightly. He turned his head slightly to look at Feng Yu. "I don't know why you've become like this." Feng Yu saw that Feng Maching finally moved. She lowered her head slightly and said, "I only know that Feng Maching, you've never been like this before. It makes me feel like I'm looking down on you." Do you still remember what you told me? Feng Yu pursed her lips slightly and looked at Feng Maching. She said, "You told me that in this world, nothing is more important than living. Now, I'll return these words to you." After Feng Yu finished speaking, she threw the food box heavily, turned around coldly, and left. Yun Yun, who was outside the room, didn't know what Feng Yu had done. All she thought about was making delicious food. Feng Maching's eyes fell on the food box. Feng Maching heard Feng Yu's words just now. If he died, Heli and Theo would forget about him? Forget about him just like that? Feng Maching frowned fiercely. There was a thick coldness in his eyes. He reached out to take the food as if he had made up his mind. Then he swallowed it in big mouthfuls. How could he die so willingly? He wasn't willing. The food in his mouth seemed to have lost its taste. It was as if there was no taste at all. Feng Yu didn't know whether Feng Maching had eaten or not, but Yun Yun pulled Feng Yu outside. In the imperial city, wild pheasants naturally didn't need to be caught by themselves. How could the prince's residents not be able to find a pheasant if they wanted one? The kitchen quickly got a live pheasant. Feng Yu and Yun Yun directly took over the kitchen. When the steward of the kitchen heard that the two of them wanted to cook, he was very worried. He then reported this matter to Jing Yu. When Jing Yu first heard about it, she was surprised. What were these two girls trying to do? There's no need to stop him. After some thought, Jing Yu nodded and said, "Just watch from the side. As long as they don't burn down our residence, it won't be a big deal." The kitchen steward silently wiped away his cold sweat. Only a master like Jing Yu would be so careless. On the other side, Feng Yu and Yun Yun were busy in the kitchen and courtyard. To be precise, Feng Yu was watching from the side with her arms crossed. Yun Yun had accidentally let the pheasant run away and was now chasing it all over the courtyard. Feng Yu furrowed her brows. Was this girl really Yuntian's daughter? Was she really from the poison sect? The pheasant suddenly jumped up, startling Yun Yun so much that she retreated and sat on the ground. Tears immediately appeared in her eyes. She stubbornly stared at the pheasant and forced her tears back. Then, she continued to pounce on the pheasant. Chapter 1873. Aya! Another scream. Yun Yun looked at the back of her hand that was scratched and looked at Feng Yu with a face full of grievance. Sigh. Feng Yu sighed helplessly and said deeply, "With your appearance, you still want to roast chicken?" Yun Yun's face was full of grievance, but she stubbornly glared and didn't say anything. "Let me do it," Feng Yu said as she walked down. She stared at the pheasant and her eyes narrowed. Suddenly, she pounced over and grabbed the pheasant by its wings. She raised her hand and pulled out a dagger. Then she mercilessly cut open the pheasant's neck and dried the blood. Yun Yun looked at Feng Yu's actions and her heart couldn't bear it. Then, she saw Feng Yu throw the pheasant into the boiling water. She swallowed her saliva and turned her head to look at Feng Yu with a different gaze. "Why are you looking at me like that?" Feng Yu frowned slightly. She looked at Yun Yun and said, "In any case, you are Yun Tian's daughter. Don't tell me you haven't even killed a pheasant before?" "My father doesn't allow me to do it." Yun Yun lowered her head and laughed. "Oh." Feng Yu nodded silently and said, "Go and pluck the pheasant's feathers clean, okay?" Yun Yun excitedly went to do it. So hot, so hot. Do I pluck it like this?" Yeah. Pluck it like this. Forget it. Go and start a fire." It's burning, it's burning." The kitchen was in chaos. Feng Yu was almost half dead from Yun Yun's torment. Feng Yu also deeply felt that the sky was about to turn dark. If she continued to torment like this, she was afraid that she wouldn't be able to eat this pheasant. In the end, she silently pulled Yun Yun behind her and personally did it. Yun Yun watched from the side. If she wanted to do it in the future, she could do it according to this method. Yun Yun repeatedly nodded and agreed to Feng Yu's words. Feng Yu taught very seriously and carefully explained the steps to Yun Yun. When the sky gradually darkened, Feng Yu used a lotus leaf to wrap the pheasant and let out a big sigh of relief. "It's done." Feng Yu smiled and said to Yun Yun, "It smells so good." Yun Yun's eyes were shining. She looked at Feng Yu in surprise and said, "Big sister Feng Yu, you're really amazing." "It's nothing. The 9th imperial concubine is even better. I learned this from her." Feng Yu blinked nonchalantly and said, "Hurry up and give this to Xiao Bai." Yun Yun heard Feng Yu's words and said, "But this was done by you. I want to cook for him myself." "It's fine," Feng Yu said as she washed her hands. "You can learn more in the future. Just treat this as me treating the two of you to a meal. I'm giving you a chance to perform. Go." Feng Yu said as she winked at Yun Yun. "Big sister Feng Yu, you're the best." Yun Yun exclaimed in surprise. She quickly picked up the roast chicken and ran out, saying, "Thank you, Sister Yu." Feng Yu looked at the lively Yun Yun who ran away, and a faint smile appeared in her eyes. She looked at the dirty bandage on her hand and frowned. Originally, she wanted to change it, but she realized that she was hungry. She decisively chose to eat first. She had been tormented for a day. Feng Yu returned to the house and called for food. Just as she was about to eat, she saw Feng Ling walking towards her. Chapter 1874. "Brother Ling, why are you here?" Feng Yu was stunned when she saw Feng Ling. Feng Ling had been following Xiao Chen around for the past few days. Her sudden appearance shocked Feng Yu. "I'm here to see you." Feng Ling smiled when she saw Feng Yu. She sat down beside Feng Yu and said, "I'm hungry too. I'll eat here." "Brother Ling, you're not here to freeload, are you?" Feng Yu stared at Feng Ling strangely. "I guess so." Feng Ling faintly arched her brows and watched as the servant girl brought in a bowl and chopsticks. She then calmly ate at the side. Feng Yu looked at Feng Ling's behavior. When she turned her head, she saw that her favorite dishes were about to be eaten up. She immediately made a big fuss. "Leave some for me," Feng Yu said and began to eat in large chunks. Feng Ling giggled and ate for a long time. She was full, but she still stayed in Feng Yu's room and didn't leave. She leaned against a chair and leisurely read a book. From time to time, she would say, "The books in the prince's mansion are really good." Feng Yu sat on the other side. When she saw Feng Ling like this, she lowered her eyes. She looked. "This story is really interesting," Feng Ling said with a smile. "Brother Ling," Feng Yu lowered her head slightly and looked at Feng Ling deeply. She asked, "What do you want to say? Say it." The smile on Feng Ling's face instantly froze. She tilted her head and looked at Feng Yu. When she saw Feng Yu's lowered head, her breathing became sluggish and she slowly put down the book in her hand. "Xiao Yu?" Feng Ling called out softly. Feng Yu smiled faintly. Since young, Feng Ling would always be like this whenever something happened. She was very familiar with it. Now, she must have something important to tell her. "Xiao Yu, have you ever thought of going back?" Feng Ling was silent for a moment. She furrowed her brows tightly and looked at Feng Yu silently. There was a hint of probing in her tone as she quietly looked at Feng Yu and asked, "Go back?" Feng Yu abruptly raised her head. Her pupils dilated slightly, and the expression in her eyes became a little bit more fearful. "Brother Ling, you don't want me anymore? You want to chase me away?" Feng Yu's hand tightened little by little, and her pitch-black eyes were filled with panic. "That's not what I meant." Feng Ling hurriedly sat beside Feng Yu and said, "During this period of time, when I was following the 9 emperors to investigate the people from Yaojiang, I accidentally discovered people from Nanjiang. If I'm not wrong, they're father's people." Feng Yu's expression turned cold bit by bit. She pursed her lips tightly and looked like she didn't want to speak. "Little Yu." Feng Ling lowered her head slightly and said, "Forget it. No matter what, I will protect you. Rest early. Just pretend I didn't say anything." When Feng Ling saw that Feng Yu was ignoring her, she sighed deeply. There were some things that she didn't say. Feng Yu's eyes darkened slightly. She lowered her head slightly as she watched Feng Ling's departing figure. What happened here didn't affect anyone, and no one knew. However, on the other side, another scene was happening. "Is it delicious?" Yun Yun carefully looked at Xiao Bai and asked. Her small face was filled with nervousness. "You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.